Mariners win 3-2. They take the first two games of the 4-game set. They are finally back at 500 at 24-24. It wasn't that long ago that they were 500. Let's talk about how it happens. Marco gives up 2 in the first on a couple of not exactly scorched balls, but Ramon Laureano singles home Esteury Ruiz. Carlos Perez singles home Ramon Laureano. In the 5th inning, J.P. Crawford homers to right center to score Tom Murphy, and Ty France finally drives a baseball. We can go finally here to make it 3-2. Nothing else goes on. All right, there's some negatives from this one. I mean, we could talk about the biggest negative being Oakland is now 10-40. I mean, I mentioned this on Twitter. The Oakland Athletics in 2023 lost their 40th game on May 23rd. The Seattle Mariners in 2001 lost their 40th game on September 4th. A little bit of a difference. Just a smidgen of a difference there. And as far as the negatives for the Mariners, bottom lineup was bad other than a Murphy single. Top of the lineup wasn't all that much better. It is worth pointing out, I think, that the Mariners... So a couple things here. The Mariners had a bunch of Justin Smokes in this game. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Justin Smokes are, it's flying out to the warning track. And on balls that look like they were going to maybe get out of the park or, hit the wall for doubles, anything but a gosh darn out. But that's not what happened. Raleigh had one of those that went right basically to the wall on a low line drive. Hit a few more situations of that. The marine layer was thick and it did not help the Seattle Mariners. Okay. Yeah, that's the negative is, scoring only 3 runs. Also, credit to Luis Medina, who I think pitched really well. I thought he looked really good. Had a couple of really nasty sliders. This was a guy who was a top 100 prospect at one point and had some helium. Like, obviously a top 100 prospect has some helium, but was shooting up because he was showing 75 fastball or maybe even 80 and a potential 65 to 70 slider. They just had very little idea of where those pitches were going and also dealt with some other stuff. So, I think we've seen enough. This is now 3 straight starts of 6 innings of 3-run baseball, I believe. Did he finish the 6th inning? I think he may have finished. No, he didn't. 5 1/3 innings of 3-run baseball, but that's not terrible. That's not terrible. It's if you look at ERA, it's terrible. But if you take away those 2 homers, he was pretty darn solid. You have to credit the other teams sometimes. Would I like to have seen the Mariners score a bunch more runs? Yes. Will I take it? Sure. Especially after you scored 11 the night before and you've won both games. Tough to complain too much. Okay. I thought Marco was pretty good. The first inning was rough. Had me worried. But bounced back pretty nicely. 4 strikeouts, nothing to write home about, but, it looked like he kept that Oakland lineup off balance. It's such a terrible lineup. I do not care. I'm sorry. I hate to be anti-analytics. I'm not. But if you just cite their WRC plus being at one point it was better than Seattle's, and all of a sudden you're telling me this is a good lineup. Shut up. That's not a good lineup. Bracken Rooker has a chance to be a good player. Ramon Laureano should get something for him at the trade deadline. Ryan Noda is really interesting as a potential platoon first baseman. That is a bad lineup. Esteury Ruiz is their hope. And even that's like a 4-win outfielder type thing. It's not the build around piece. They're bad. But Marco did a pretty good job. I thought the bullpen was really good tonight. So good that I just got a notification. They're so excited for me to talk about that bullpen that you Had to hear a text message. One day I'll learn to put the notifications off. At least I don't have an alarm set for Google this time. I don't think I do anyway. We'll see. But Trevor Gott was really good. Probably the best I've seen him throw in a couple of days or weeks. Justin Topod just fine. Paul Sewald. If it's a one-run game, he's going to be really good. That 3.32 ERA might be the most misleading ERA I've ever seen, in a good way, because he'll give up a few runs in those games where there's some, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Positives. Well, there's a positive and a negative for Ty France. So he does have the homer, but he also gets hit by a pitch in the ninth inning. By the way, I feel terrible for Trevor May. Terrible. Because he clearly was visibly upset after both of those hit by pitches and clearly wasn't trying to hit either player. And this is a player that just returned from the injured list for anxiety. And, that's not going to help. That's not going to help. It's scary. When you're throwing a 95 mile per hour fastball and you are, even if you have the best command in the world, you're taking a player's life into consideration every time you do it. And that was scary. Not so much scary because, look, it hits Ty France in the wrist. Thankfully, it hits him in the wrist and not in the head. But you could see like the emotion on Trevor May's face that this bugged him. And as much as I hope Ty France is okay, I hope Trevor May is okay too. Now, it was great to see him drive the baseball. But the good news is with Trevor France. The good news with Ty France is that X-rays return negative, but there's swelling and there's a contusion, aka a bruise. They need to sit him until he's okay. He can't try to play through this. And I appreciate people who try to play through pain and all of that stuff. You're got the best of intentions. But you saw what happened when Ty France tried to play through injuries last year and the year before that. It has not worked out well. If he's not fully healthy, he needs to sit. And, that stinks because, look, as mediocre as Ty France has been, love the 340 on base percentage. 380 slugging percentage is great, especially from your first baseman. But he's got to sit, and your depth is now called into question. Because now you've got Sam Haggerty starting baseball games. And look, Sam Haggerty was a really fun story last year. Not someone I want starting baseball games for my playoff contending baseball team. So, here's hoping that the swelling subsides and the bruise is something that goes down in the next couple of days. I would imagine he's not playing today. Recording this on Wednesday, I would be really shocked if we saw Ty France in the lineup today. But if he's hurt, they got to IL it. Don't have him play through it. Do not have him play through it. So that was kind of a positive and a negative, and I guess I should have talked about that more in the negative section. It doesn't matter. These have absolutely no story structure to them. JP Crawford. Man. Proud of my son. I make that joke a lot, and it's because he has the same last name as me, but getting that through that Marine layer with a couple of guys on and 2 out, it was big. It was big. Reaches twice again. 367 on base percentage. He's no longer out. Well, no, take it back. He's still out slugging Eugenio Suarez. That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. Couldn't be happier with how he's played. Again, somebody sending me a text message to let me know how proud they are of him. He's been massive. Without JP Crawford and Jared Kelnick, I don't know where this team is right now. Not 24-24, I'll tell you that much. It's been so fun to see him play well again. Again, we saw him do it to start last year as well. And who knows if it's going to continue. But he's been a solid defensive player. He's been a strong option at the top of the lineup now. He was solid at the bottom of it as well. If you're just looking at batting average, you're making a mistake. Because the on-base percentage matters so much more. So much more. And it's been awesome to see. It also, just for those of you who, say, well, you can't complain about them not signing a middle infielder because of how good Crawford is. Wrong-o. Because J.P. Crawford's offense would have been just fine at second base, or one of those middle infielders could have made the move over to second base, and you would have been just fine. Because Colton Wong returns to the lineup, goes 0 for 3, 172, 252, 202. Yikes. Yikes bikes. Imagine that, assuming Jose Caballero's okay, Wong will be back on the bench again today. Wong, I imagine, is not going to be in the starting lineup as long as there's nothing going on with Caballero. Whew. Brutal. In fact, I almost guarantee it because they're facing a lefty today. We've got Bryce Miller against Ken Waldachuk. Saw what Miller could do against that Oakland lineup one time before. I imagine he'll be good again. Hopefully they score a few more runs this time around. But I will say, I thought the offensive game plan yesterday wasn't bad. It just, Marine layered. Yeah, back to 24-24. We talked about how they need a 5-2 week. And now you're just got to win 3 of 5 to make that through. You can probably aim a little higher now. 6-1 would be really nice. 6-1 and maybe an 8-2 homestand. Don't want to get too far ahead of everything, but when you win the first 2, you can start dreaming a little bigger. Dreaming a little bigger. And my goodness, Oakland. 10-40. Unbelievable. I knew they were bad. I knew they were the worst team in baseball. Didn't know that they were a 20% win team a third of the way through the year. That's just insane. That is absolutely insane. Glad it's not us. But sorry, Oakland fans, if you're watching. Love you. But this is bad. Bad for baseball and bad for everybody, except for the team that you're playing right now. And that happens to be the Seattle Mariners. Please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Wins are wins. Even when they come against